Emma, tell me about how you grew up your childhood.
I would say I had a pretty normal childhood all the way up until about middle school. I was born in Visalia, California, which is like Central Valley, very much unlike most people we know here. I was not from a nice part. I moved to Oklahoma when I was about like 2, and then I lived there for 2 years, and then when I turned 4, we lived in Colorado. We moved, and I lived in Thornton all the way up until I was in 6th grade. And I would say, out of like everything in my life, I'm most grateful for like a lot of my childhood. Like, I have amazing parents. They just recently celebrated 28 years. Um, Heck yeah, snaps. They're my best friends of all time. Like, genuinely, I love my parents more than anything. I have an older sister too. Her name's Isabel. She's my best friend. Like, she's amazing. Um, but I had a pretty chill, like, elementary, pretty normal. Not my favorite place to be ever. Realized very early on that I hated school and that I didn't want to be in it very long. So shocker that I'm in college now, but around 6th grade, I chose to go to a middle school that was not the best. During this time in my life, my dad was in Wyoming a lot because he was working on starting his own company, and so he wasn't really home. And my mom was working on getting her second job, which she pretty much has now.
I'm sorry if I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but what company was he trying to start up in
He's a land director, so he was trying to start a company for like pretty much just like getting land to like work with energy and stuff. So he does a lot of stuff. He works for United Power now, so
Wow.
he loves it. He runs a lot of the lights for like where I live in like Broomfield and Erie and stuff. So, little fun fact, I can go to Top Golf for pretty much free.
That's awesome.
It's such a clutch. It's so clutch. And my mom, she was a hearing specialist and a teacher kind of ish for a really long time, and now she has like a whole caseload of kids. She's a district coordinator for Adams 12, and she gets to find facilities and places for kids that don't have the best lives, but they're really fortunate to be working with her. So my sister's about to graduate soon. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for her. And I'm here and hopefully getting my esthetician license soon, taking my first test in December, crossing my fingers. But I've come such a long way, and I'm so, like, I feel like if anything, like, you learn from college is, like, I feel like everyone here is, like, finds their, like, themselves, like, the best, because you're, like, genuinely alone for the first time, so, like, you kind of get to figure out, like, who are your real people, because there's no, like, classes or, like, condensed space keeping people as friends anymore. It's very much just, like, it's you against, like, hundreds of people that you've never met and probably you're never gonna see again. Like, you see them for one class and then you probably don't see them again, and you kind of just, like, figure out how, like, different things suit you, and there's so many different, like, opportunities here, and I feel like with all of it I've just, like, really grown into the best version of myself despite everything that I've been through. So
Yeah.
it's been a journey, but I'm glad I'm on it.
Yeah. I'd say that's like the most beautiful part of life is to get to like feel all of that and then
Oh yeah.
grow from it.
Yeah.
And like take the like the good, the bad, and the ugly and turn it into a lesson that you
Oh,
internalize
100%.
and, like, that leads you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I didn't have the best, like, I didn't have the most like fortunate life. Like I definitely had some very unlucky things, but a lot of my friends know, and pretty much anyone that's super close to me knows that I guide myself through life with a lot of it's through my religion and how I treat people based off of that. And just like I'm happy to say, like, at a point now I'm a very forgiving person. I don't hold grudges. Like, you can do anything to me and I'll always forgive you. I don't forget it, but I'll always forgive you to like give myself a free state of mind. But I can look back on everything that's ever happened to me with like abuse and everything and be fully confident in saying that I'm genuinely so grateful it happened, because the amount of people that I've helped is like it means so much more to me than anything that happened to me. Like the fact that I've helped people with different mental problems and even being in a suicidal mindset or family problems sometimes, or just when you're confused on like what you want to do, like all different kinds of things, all different walks of lives. Like I've helped so many people, and like at the end of the day that's all I've ever wanted to do. So I'm glad that the battles that I went through happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that way of putting it. Okay, so do we want to backtrack a little bit and hear about what's happening when your dad's going to Wyoming for his job?
Of course, yeah. So he was in Wyoming a lot. I'm forgetting the name of it. Was like a little ghost town. It's not a very popular place, but he was always out there just working and, you know, doing his own thing. He says he's 49 now and he still doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. So he was trying something new. And my mom was super busy. My sister was in her very first relationship, which was not the best, but she was busy with that. So I was pretty much, I was navigating through middle school pretty much alone, because I decided to leave my friends that were going to a different middle school in the district, and I picked one that was A, closer to my house, and B, I knew it would be easier on my family just going there. Right. So I went, and you know, the first couple like weeks into it, it was hard because I didn't have anyone, and I've changed a lot now. Now I thrive being alone. I used to hate it. I used to like need people just because I grew up so anxious. Like I was such an anxious person growing up. I've definitely had anxiety my whole life. And social anxiety was like big at the time, 100%. And a few weeks into school, I was sitting outside, you know, at my house, and we lived on a golf course, and I would jump the fence and sit in a tree that was outside. And I rock climbed my whole life, so climbing anything was like a stim. But I would go in there and I would just sit and just like do random things. I would like play on my phone. I just liked being out there. And there was always this kid. He was my neighbor, and he would sit on his porch, and I always observed him. And then one day I noticed he was in the tree next to me, because they were like in specific like spots. And he came over to my tree, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "Hey, like you're here a lot. Like, what's your name?" And I was like, "Emma." And he told me his name was Shane. And he was 2 years older than me. He was in the same grade as my sister. And, like, long story short, he became my best friend of all time. We hung out pretty much every single day that we could. Every single day after school, I was with him. And it was literally, like, the best way I can describe it is now I compare everyone I meet on a scale of like how close they are to him, because I consider him perfect. Like genuinely, like I consider that kid like a perfect human being, the perfect best friend, like someone that he's the only person. I'm super stubborn. Whenever I'm upset, like I don't take advice. You can try. I'm not going to take it. I'll sit there and argue with you. Like I just like to rant about stuff, and he was the only person that I would rant and he would say something and I would be like yeah, that one hits, like, okay.
Yeah.
But because he was 2 years older than me, I didn't really get to see him a lot at school, and I was so desperate to get friends, because you're 11, you know, and I got social media really young. I had Snapchat when I was in 5th grade, just because I had older cousins that had it, and, you know, they wanted to send me pictures with all the filters and all the things, and, you know, it was so cool to have Snapchat back then. But I started caring about my looks really early on, too. I started wearing makeup when I was in the 5th grade. I was about 10. And
Wow.
yeah, this is crazy. So by the time I was 11, I was already wearing, like, I had eyeshadow on sometimes. I had mascara. I literally would wear concealer over acne. Like, you're 11. I don't know what acne you're hiding, but okay. And I met a group of girls in my grade. And when you don't have anybody, you're desperate for anyone.
Right.
So I, of course, became their friend. I've also been such a gullible person my whole life. Like, I'm better at it now, but I just didn't really pick up on what they were putting down.
Yeah.
It was very clear looking back on it now that this was a group of 3 girls that were simply bored with their own life and wanted someone to play with. But I didn't see it like that at the time. I just saw it as girls being nice. And for a while, it started out that way. And I would, you know, do all the things that you did in 6th grade. Like, I went to the mall and spent like $20 every time because that's all we had. And I did everything for them, like everything. And it just started to kind of go downhill. It started with like things about my appearance, and I was very little. I was about 4'11", not 100 pounds yet, not even close. Like I said, I grew up doing competitive rock climbing. I did it for 7 years, so I was very fit, but I wasn't like, I mean, I didn't start going through puberty or anything like really late, so I looked like a child. I was a child. Like, looking back on videos and stuff now, knowing everything that happened, I just, like, want to give her a hug. I'm like, you are a baby. Like,
Yeah.
girl wasn't even close to getting a chest yet. It was, like, pecs, genuinely. And I started getting, like, not really compliments, just comments on my appearance. And, like, why does your stomach stick out like that? Like, why do your legs look like that? And when you're 11 and you're so, like, susceptible to anything, you were like, oh, yeah, like, why do I? And it was just one thing after another, and I started to just really take everything to heart. When they started dissing my personality was when it really started to hit home, because that's, like, my prized possession about myself, is how, like, when I'm nice to people, like, I genuinely have so much love for every single person that I come across. Like, if you want to talk to me and get to know me, like, I want to talk to you and get to know you just as much. And these girls just started to, like, straight up bully me, and they were my friends and I loved them. So of course I believed everything that I was hearing. And at some point I was getting beat up by these girls. I was getting hit, and they thought it was funny, like, genuinely funny. And the thing is now I can look back, and none of these people, I don't even, like, really blame them. Like, I have so many different, like, sides to every single person. Like, I think hurt people, and I know that these girls had hard lives at home, and knowing that, I was just like, who am I to, like, I really considered myself at the time as, like, they need this, you know, like, at 11, I was letting people completely mentally and physically abuse me because they needed it. and I just let it happen. And I remember like literally curling into a ball and just letting it happen.
I think that also when you're so young and like you have all these things going on like with your own self, like you feel like insecure about something, or you feel like you need more in your life, like you don't have that many friends and you're looking for friends, and you like sort of latch on to like a group of people. When they start to act a certain way, then you sort of kind of learn to like internalize it and take it as like this is what I deserve, because it's not gonna get any better than this.
I feel like a common experience I feel like with girls that I can kind of relate to it in a way is like when you're with a group of girls who are like talking crap about someone, even if you don't want to say anything, you just start saying things because you want to be in the conversation, and then you're like, oh, like I didn't mean that, like that's not who I am. But like, are you just gonna sit there and say nothing? You know, like it sucks, but like sometimes you do things that aren't you because everyone else is doing it. And like I was so insecure. I'm not gonna stand up to myself. Like I was 11, like I was a child once again, and this was when, you know, vaping became the thing. Everyone and their mom had a Juul, and they all had them. And then it started with vaping, and then slowly it turned into weed, and then alcohol was introduced. And then around that point, with all the drugs that I was doing, and like I said, I was like, how big I was plays a very big part in this.
Were you still 11 at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much everything I'm about to say, I was 11.
Okay.
But I can like let you know, like I was literally like, I was 11 for pretty much most of it until like my recovery started.
Okay.
So either way, it was a lot for a kid. And I have mental problems that run in my family, heavily on my dad's side. Depression is a huge one. Anxiety is a huge one. And being undiagnosed, but definitely having them, doing all these things was just unlocking all the beauty of my mental illnesses and making it worse. And when you're that young, like your brain is like literally growing still. Like you're not developed at all, and I hadn't even started puberty yet, so I was like pre-effing up my brain before I even got started with anything. So eventually I would just rant to Shane about it. I would rant to him because he was my best friend, and he always kept it just between me and him. And we always kept it very just us, and we didn't really tell anyone that like we hung out. I didn't tell any of the girls. He didn't tell anyone in his grade, because we liked it being just us, because it felt private and it felt special. Obviously our parents knew and our families knew because we were neighbors and whatnot, but it was just us, and like I liked it that way. And he became like my therapist. And you know, it's so important, I feel like, especially when you're going through a hard time or anything, to have other emotionally intelligent people in your life. Yeah. That just like when you say things, they get it because they've been there. And having him, like, he never failed to put a smile on my face. Like, I could have the worst day and I would always go back to my house like laughing my ass off, or just smiling, or just being so happy, or just like, God, I love this life. And most of the time I was high off my ass. Him and I would smoke together, and it was nothing but a pure platonic friendship. It was like a brother that I never had. And going back to my girls, they introduced me to a kid who ended up being probably one of the worst people that I've ever been. He's probably one of the worst people that's ever been in my life. He was in the 7th grade. He was a year older than me. He was 13, and he grew up with his family making drugs. As soon as he was able to do anything, that like involved using your brain or learning how to do something, like, most kids when they get to a certain age, they learn how to, vacuum the house or
Right.
clean the dishes. He was learning how to make meth and cocaine
Okay.
and different types of hard drugs. Because the middle school that I chose to go to was not a bad school in any means, and it's gotten so much better, but it was notorious for being a school that parents would put their kids in to kind of push them towards a better life. Because they had, like, he had an uncle that was in certain associations and stuff in Memphis. And
I know what you mean.
yeah, there were even like people that had people in like the mafia and stuff. Like, I'm being so for real. It was a scary place to be. And like, these are all kids, but they don't act like kids.
Yeah.
They know work, and they that's all. Like, they probably don't even have plans for the rest of their life. What they have been doing for as long as they can remember is their work. They are now just a part of this family business that is so illegal and underground. And I was kind of pushed into this. I got with him and we started, I guess, dating. And I would never consider or, I guess, count a 6th grade relationship if it wasn't as prevalent in my life as it ended up being. At first, it was great. He did everything that I ever wanted. I realized very early on, I love attention. And I think the ways that he gave me attention weren't the best. Because, like I said, he had grown up around adults that didn't know how to act around children. So he was nothing but inappropriate. He would ask to see parts of my body, and he would ask to just do things that I didn't want to do. He was my first kiss, and it's like, I remember doing it and being like, this isn't, like, was this supposed to be special? Like, you kind of, like, when it happens, it feels like it was kind of just, like, a waste. Like, it was taken from me. And at this point in the school year, like, I had been so just mentally damaged already. I think, and it happened, it was so many things in such short, like, time. It was literally, like, everything I say was condensed into one singular school year. And that's the craziest part, is it's like, whenever I like talk about sharing my life, it's literally one school year.
Yeah.
And it's stuck with me forever, and it will forever. But I became very suicidal, and I was now doing harder drugs than I was before. I was still drinking and nicotine and vape, like everything. I did all of it. And then now I was doing like ecstasy and meth and cocaine and LSD, like all of it. Like any drug you can really think of besides like needle drugs or like heroin or any of that. Like, I was pretty much doing it. And not only was I doing it, I was creating a like big mixed concoction because I was so little. So when I was putting drugs in, none of them were leaving my system fast enough for them to like not mix. So I was mixing all of these drugs, and I was just on this for a whole year pretty much. I was just on this huge trip of just I didn't know what was real, what was fake. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And I was just like living in a constant state of just like a blur. Like, my days were like 4 seconds long, but they were normal days. But I just don't remember it that way. And the fact that I even remember as much as I do is like crazy. There could have been more that have happened, and I just don't know. But what I do remember, and I'm never going to forget, was when our relationship shifted, me and this kid, and the things that my girlfriend said about me in the beginning, he started saying. And when you love someone like that, it hurts a little more than friends. Because I feel like with friends, you can brush it off. Maybe
Yeah.
they're insecure, they have stuff going on. Plus, they're girls. And girls are always really critical because I feel like we're more insecure. And he was saying things and it hurt. It felt like a knife, like kind of just stabbing through, because you're like, this person's supposed to love me and they did what happened. And then when things shift like that, you immediately just blame it on yourself. You're like, oh yeah, no, he's acting like this because I look like this or I'm doing this. And I started to change it myself too. I was at this time, I quit climbing when I was in the 7th grade, because my mindset was really toxic with it. I lost the love for the sport. I was just doing it to win. And it started around 6th grade because I started overworking myself so much to a point where I just wanted to be skinny. I didn't care. I just wanted to be skinny. Like, babe, you're 11. Like, you are tiny. Like, you're not 100 pounds yet. I don't know what you mean. And so I was so unhealthy in every way possible. And when my family's not home and when my sister's not home, all I had was Shane. And I would go home and he would see it. And eventually, like, it started to affect him 100%. He watched this girl that he loved and cared about just turn into this, like, broken, like, malnourished just girl who was miserable and who would walk around with bruises and scars and all kinds of things because her boyfriend would kick her and hit her and beat her up when he was anything, when he was mad at her, when he was like, anything I did made him angry. It felt like I could breathe wrong and I would get a hit. And I started doing drugs and stuff because he started threatening me. If I didn't do it, here's what's going to happen to you. And you're so young and you're so confused that I just said yes to everything. And eventually, and I was the hardest thing in the world to break for me. Out of every drug, every substance, the hardest thing was in October when I picked up a blade and I started cutting. And it lasted pretty much all the way up until recently. I've now been sober for 8 months, and that's the longest I've ever been. And that took years of my life, like years, because, you can't just get substances, but you can get a blade. You can take apart your razor or a pencil sharpener or anything, and it's so easy to hide it. And it became like medicine for me. And I kept it as like my secret for so long because I didn't see it as bad. I genuinely didn't see it as a way of like harm. I literally saw it as therapy, and that's what's so harsh about it. And I remember it got to a point like after a couple of years where I did it, and then when they would fade, that would be the hardest thing because it was like, oh, like I need to have something there to like show that like I was healing. So it was like cutting over already places that like it was cutting over scars, and it was just horrible.
I feel like that's a feeling that people don't really talk about very often. I've heard people say it before, but like it just like kind of the scars turn into like proof that something happened for
Right.
you, and it makes you feel so like validated and like understood to have them on you. But then when they fade, it just feels like everything got erased, kind of.
Right. It's like everything happened for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and that's such a toxic mindset to be in, especially when you're so young.
Yeah.
And I was going through it, and one person knew, and I was airing out my dirty laundry to one person, and he still, no matter what, put a smile on my face, made me laugh. Like, he always knew what was right to say. And then around November, I was my first attempt at committing suicide. And this is truly like when I found out I had a bond with him, like truly like interlinked. I had thoughts about just like, I'm just gonna cut myself to death. Like, what's the point? Like, I'm miserable, right? I was going through so much, and I finally was just like, here I go. Like, I'm gonna do it. And I'm getting my stuff ready to just commit to it, and I get a text from him. He had no idea. He felt something was off, so he texted me. And
Wow.
I answered, and he saved my life. I was crying, and then the second I hung out with him, I didn't even tell him. He doesn't even know. He knows now, but like at the time, he had no idea that he had just saved a girl's life. What's even crazier is the second time, the same thing happened. He called me and told me to hang out. And when we got together this second time I tried committing, he said, just felt like something was off and I needed to see you. And like that to me, I'm just like that's my soulmate. Like genuinely, like how, like what are the odds? Like I am just so forever grateful for him. And around December, I'm still just going through all of this, and January rolls around, and at this point, like, I am nothing short of a wreck. I have over 5,000 scars on my body, and I am addicted to massive amounts of drugs, like all different kinds, hallucinogenics, like anything I could get to feel something again, I was doing it. And I was just so miserable because like deep down inside of me there was this little girl who was just so heartbroken because her childhood was stripped away from her. My parents have been together for 28 years. I started wanting to find my like soulmate, so call it, my person, my like significant other. I started wanting that when I was in the 3rd grade. And that's all I ever wanted. And I was just watching my life get destroyed by the one person that I trusted and loved to be
and
that.
You wanted
Yeah.
to be that
And if
person
anything,
for
that's
you.
probably another reason why I like let things happen, is just because I was like, this is my person. Like I was almost forcing it to be a certain way when it's like, no, hun, like you met him in the 6th grade. Like you're not getting married. Clearly not the person for you.
Yeah.
And then going into January, I was just not, I was not great. But what's crazy is I had mastered the act of no one knew. No one knew. And it's winter. It gets so early in Colorado, and especially back then before things got all weird now. But like it got cold so fast, and I was already like I had an excuse to be wearing long sleeves and sweatpants and loose clothes all the time because it's freezing outside. But what's this real secret is that my body is a wreck. I'm tiny. I'm so unhealthy. And I remember there was one night in January, and like I said, this boy that I was dating, his family, like it was not like normal. It was very wrong, and they were just such a weird, it was more like a group. It wasn't even like a family. Like I questioned if they even loved each other in a way. And they had a party, and obviously I was forced to go. And while I was here, my significant other handed me a drink, and he just told me to drink it. Okay.
All right.
I got it down, and I didn't even think to like look because he wouldn't do anything to me. Turns out there was in fact a roofie in there, and this was the first time that my ex tried to rape me. And I had been texting my friend the entire time, and I told him the address because I remember sitting on the couch, and there was a picture of their house in it, and I just remember sitting and remembering the numbers. I was laying there slowly just fading in and out of like being able to move, how a roofie works, and reading the numbers on this picture, and I remember texting them to Shane and being like, I feel weird. Like, something feels off. Like, I don't feel like I can move. I feel numb. And then I stopped texting him. He came over, and by this time, I had already been taken upstairs. And my ex was just saying, like, horrible things to me. He was saying things like, you deserve this. And, like, if you think people would ever want something from you, like, it's this. So, like, you should get that in your head. Like, you're fun to look at. And
were you still 11 at this point? This was still in 6th grade, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I was still 11. My birthday's in March. So, still 11. And I was saved by Shane once again. He barged into the room and he punched the kid in the face. And he picked me up and he took me home, and I spent the night at his house. I don't remember anything else. Genuinely, like, no recollection, but I do remember that. And the worst thing about it was this was the first time that anyone had seen me and Shane together, and it was my ex. So, just an important thing to keep in mind. We continued throughout the year, and then around the end of January was when one of the worst things of my life probably happened to me. There was one specific bathroom in this middle school, and it was like one gender, like the ones where you open and it's just a really heavy door and then like a toilet, a sink, and like it's like one room. It's like one stall.
Yeah.
There's no like, it's one gender.
The gender neutral.
Yeah.
Bathrooms. Yeah.
And this school didn't have anyone like that. Like, you would get so bullied if you were different at all. So kids used this as, and they're also, it was in an area where there weren't cameras or anything. So kids used this as an area to sell the drugs that they were making with their families, or, you know, do anything. And I would always go there. I was in the middle of a German class, actually, and I sat right in front of my ex, and he would leave and then go there, and then about 10 minutes after, I would leave and go to him and get my drugs. And it was a system. It happened every single day of school.
Would you pay him for these drugs?
No.
Was he, like, testing them on you?
He was giving them to me to take advantage.
Okay.
I was never in a clear state of mind, ever. Not once, the whole year, besides the beginning. Yeah. And I went down there one day, and I opened the door, which was weird because normally it was cracked. And I opened it and the lights were off. And I was like, oh, like, I'm here earlier than he is. So I turned to flick on the lights. And the second I do, him and his friends sit up off the ground, and I'm pinned against a wall. And I'm so confused, obviously. And then I was, trigger warning, they proceeded to sexually assault me. Him and his friends pulled my pants down, and he started to, like, vigorously just put his fingers inside of me. I wasn't turned on, so he was ripping up my internal lining. I was bleeding. It was enough to damage my nerves, and I also had my cherry popped that day, so I'm bleeding all over the floor. And the worst thing about it was they were filming it. You used to be able to look up Emma Barwick on Google, and this video would pop up. And in it, just to kind of sum it up, it's me on the floor. And these guys are, like, they're not huge people, but I was so little, and they were all, like, football players and wrestlers and Lord knows what else. Like, obviously I'm not I'm not gonna win. And when it's your boyfriend doing it, I just remember looking at him and I'm crying. I just didn't know what to say. And I was just looking at him, and I was stop, please, like, you're hurting me, that hurts. And they did it, and they laughed, and they filmed it. And he at the very end, they looked at the video, they rewatched it a couple times, and I sat against the wall, and I was just so, like, defeated. Because it is, like, sexual assault and rape and anything. It's the most defeating feeling in the world. You can literally feel, like, a part of yourself is just stripped away from you, and you're never getting that back. Yeah. And before him and his friends walked out, and he leaned down to my level, and he got, like, as close as we are, and he looked me dead in the eyes, and word for word was like, Emma, I want you to know that you are fucking worthless, and if you think anyone would ever love someone like you, you are so dead wrong. Get used to people treating you like this, because it's all you're ever gonna get. And I remember it. I remember everything he said. And he left. I sat against the wall for about 2 minutes. And then I cleaned up my own blood. I cleaned up myself. I looked in the mirror and I splashed water on my face. I walked out and I went back to class, sat right in front of him, and I didn't say a word to anyone. I didn't tell Shane for about a week. And when I did, he was furious. He was pissed. And that whole story is what got me into going to the gym. You know, I can sit here and say as much as, oh, I wanted to better my life, and it is my therapy, and it is. But genuinely, at the core of it all, I started working out because I wanted to be able to push them off. And I wasn't. Yeah. And now I can. And props to me. So anyone can say I'm getting bulky. I don't care. But I remember when I told Shane, he didn't even really say anything. He just looked at me and he just started to cry. And I was like, well, like what? And he was like, I just hate that, like, someone like you is getting treated this way. Like, Emma, you're so beautiful and I love you so much, and, like, you don't deserve that, and you're worth so much, and, like, I know one day you're gonna find that. And that, like, just everything he said, like, the way he said it, there was just so much intention behind it, and it was exactly what I needed. And February came up, excuse me, and first week was pretty great. Just going through the same things that I had been all year. And now I was terrified of this person. But it's like any domestic violence relationship, you don't see it. Like, you're so blind to the abuse and the damage that's happening to you. You're so stuck in this thing of, no, they're going to change. Like, this person loves me, right? Like, and I just kept telling myself that. And that happened first week of February, and then that second week, I was hanging out with Shane, and it was a pretty normal day. You know, we hung out, and it was the dates kind of get important now, but February 11th, I was hanging out with him. Also February 11th, some backstory on my friend. He grew up with a brother and a mom. His dad was not in his life. Not necessarily because he didn't want to be. His dad grew up with very, very harsh drug addiction problems, enough to keep him in jail pretty much his entire life. And he was an amazing dad. He would draw pictures and write notes for Shane and his brother his entire life. So Shane knew his dad through pictures and art and letters, and he loved his dad. Like, he loved his dad. He heard him through calls, and he never got to meet him, though. And February 11th, his dad got out of jail, and he was supposed to meet his dad for the first time in his life. Wow. And unfortunately, when his dad got out, he met up with some old friends and unfortunately overdosed and passed away.
On the day that he was released from jail?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And Shane found out and was heartbroken. He was heartbroken. And he had already struggled with such major depressive like disorders his entire life, and that's why he got me. Like he was a broken, it was just two broken people like trying to feel less broken as a whole, and that's why we connected so well. And why he always knew what to say, because we were essentially adults living in the bodies of children. And I hung out with him that day, and the conversation when we left went something like how it always did. I said, "Goodbye, Shane. Like, I love you so much. I'll see you tomorrow." Like, whatever. I'm at my door, and I'm walking, like, up my driveway, and he's at his door, and he goes, like, "Goodbye, Emma. Like, I just want you to know, like, I love you so much. Like, I love you so much, Emma." And he walked inside and he shut the door. And for a second, I remember standing at my door and thinking, and I just sat there and I was like, how weird is it that he didn't say, "I'll see you tomorrow"? He always said, "I'll see you tomorrow, Emma." And I went inside, and I was home alone this weekend. My sister was out with her friend, who she's still best friends with. And my mom was out with friends, and my dad was in Wyoming. And I was told to be left home alone so that I could watch the dogs. I woke up and I heard like pounding on my front door. And I walked downstairs and I see Shane's mom in tears. And I had just woken up. I'm like, "What's wrong?" I called her Mimi. And I was, "Mimi, what's wrong?" And she looked me dead in the face and she goes, "Emma, I'm so sorry. Shane's gone." And I was just, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" And I run outside and I see fire trucks and ambulances, and my heart dropped like down to my stomach instantly, and I just kind of like blacked out. I remember just running across, and she grabbed me when I got to like the edge of my driveway. And we had this little grass thing separating our driveways, and I'm being held back with her. She's holding me back, and I see them wheel out a stretcher. And when they pull the sheet back to write something down, I see my best friend, pale as the wall, with a red line all the way around his neck. And I yell his name out, because even when you see it, you don't believe it. And I yell his name out. I say, "Shane, like, hello?" And I watch. It's literally, I get goosebumps every single time that I talk about it. I watch my best friend's arm fall completely limp to the side. And I scream at the top of my lungs, because this person who not only saved my life physically, but mentally, and was my entire world, is gone. And I just didn't want to believe it at the time. And I collapsed and I sobbed, and all of these, like, whoever wasn't helping him started helping me. And they brought me inside, and I didn't want to leave. Like, I didn't want to leave him. And for years, I blamed myself. For years. It took me all the way up until my junior year of high school. I stopped blaming myself for my best friend's death, because I was the last person to talk to him. Like, and it's, for years, it was, if I could go back, what would I, and it's like, I can't, like, what happened, and it's taken me so many years to realize, like, it's not my fault. And especially in that situation, your body will fight the hardest it can to survive, and he didn't. He let it happen. So, as, like, horrible as it is, it's definitely, like, out of everything, if I could go back and change one thing, it would be that. Because, whenever I do something now, like, I think of him. Whenever I meet a new friend, whenever I meet just anyone that makes me happy, whenever I see a rainbow in the sky, whenever I see purple sunsets, whenever I meet people. Whenever like my best friend's name is Eloise now. Whenever I met my friend Eloise, it was like I never really say it, but I just like I know I'm like that's Shane. Like he did this. He sent this. He whatever. And that was February 12th when he committed early in the morning, and I decided to not go to like I just told myself I was going to go to school because I couldn't sit and be in my house alone, and I needed some form of a distraction. So I chose to go to school. And February 14th, I went to school. It was Valentine's Day. And I saw my ex once again, and he was laughing. Shane was a very well-known kid at the school. There was a vigil being held for him that the school put together, and I remember my ex tearing down pictures of him and laughing. It was like to spite me. And I just didn't even, like, I was mute the whole day. I didn't say a word to anyone. I didn't answer a question. I laid my head on my desk and I just kept everything in. And then I walked home that day, and I remember looking like behind me and seeing him and his friends walking, and they were walking like a certain pace where it was just like it was weird. It wasn't with me, but they knew it was me. And we got to a certain point in the neighborhood where it kind of is like it's outside, but it's blocked off from like every like you have to like be standing in a specific area to see everything that's going on. And his friends had fallen off and separated off from him. So it was just me and my ex. And he he pushed me down, and I had no fight left in me. Like I with drugs and self-harm and the mental things that I had gotten, I just wasn't I just didn't care. I just didn't care. And he did it. And I can say he did a lot of things, but he never raped me because this was the second time he attempted to. And right before anything happened, he looked at me and said, "Your friend's not here to help you anymore." And I just got such an insane, like, rage just came over me. And I remember I literally kneed him as hard as I could in the balls. And I ran home. I ran home as fast as I could. And I got home and I slammed my front door. And I was just sitting against the door. And I sat there just sobbing. And then it was so, like, robotic in a way. I sat up and I looked over at my laundry room, and I walked, and the little, like, cups that go on top of detergents and stuff, I pulled it off, and I filled it up about halfway with bleach, and I drank pretty much most of it.
Oh my God.
Took it like a shot. And within seconds, I was passed out on the floor. And if my sister came in 2 seconds later than she did, I would not be sitting here right now. She came in and she saw me, and she called an ambulance and my parents, and I was rushed to the hospital, and everything I say now was just what my family told me. I was flushed with saline and water, and I was pretty much gone. They flushed me and tried to just do a bunch of things. My heart was still going, but very slow. And then it stopped. And for about 5 minutes, I was dead. I flatlined. And my parents were just, like, screaming at these nurses and doctors, like, please resuscitate, please resuscitate. And so they did. And the second time, by some miracle, I was brought back. And I don't ever really like, people can say that I make it up and you can really see it however you want, but and it could just be my brain exploding or whatever and making its own visions. But I'll never forget sitting, like, I saw complete darkness. People always ask you, like, what do you see when you die? I saw darkness, and then I remember there was a light, and it felt like I was getting closer to it, and then it fuzzied out, and when I opened my eyes, my parents were there, just looking at me. And
I have a question. I'm going to backtrack for a second, or maybe I'm skipping forward, I'm not sure, but when you said that you were addicted to this whole, like, jumble of substances in 6th grade, did your parents ever know or find out?
Mm-mm.
No.
No. I was most of the time with Shane at his house. He would take me there to kind of, in a way, save my innocence. Like, he didn't want my parents to see me like that. And I had been going to therapy for 2 days after he passed for losing him because my parents knew about him. But there were so many other things that I needed to be getting treated for. And then when this happened, my parents were obviously, like, it opened their eyes. It opened everyone's eyes. Like, because, like, I say all of this and you think it's so easy to notice because of the way I describe it. But in reality, like, I was, like, a master at hiding things. It's, like, one of the reasons now probably why I have such a high tolerance to things. Like, I can act and be completely normal and I could have so much going on. And my parents, like, you don't think any of it's happening. Like, your kid's 11. You wouldn't ever expect anything like this. So you just don't, like, look for it. And then when they had me pass and this whole thing happened, it was like, what's going on? What pushes someone to a point where they feel like suicide is the best option? And after that, I stayed in the hospital for about 2 days, and I was failing every single mental evaluation. So then I was sent to a hospital for mental health, and I stayed there for pretty much the rest of the school year, all of March. I turned 12 there, all of May, and I was supposed to be there all of the summer, but in August I got out kind of around when I was moving to Superior because I couldn't even be in the area anymore. Like, to this day I can still drive around Thornton and point out places where I was jumped or whatever. And I got therapy, and it was one of the hardest things my family, like, we've ever had to go through as a family, but it made us so much closer. Like, my parents were not mad at all. They were just, like, they wanted to help me. Like, they just watched
And they found out everything.
Yeah.
At this point?
At the hospital, I had to open up about everything that had been happening to me, and it just broke everyone's heart. I had to get, like, sexual evaluations and multiple mental evaluations. I started brain mapping when I was 12, when I turned 12, and I was just in here for so long, and my parents witnessed me going through withdrawals, and it's so hard. Like, I was literally going insane without drugs. I would sit at walls and just scream at, like, blank walls. It was horrifying. And I didn't have my phone for a lot of it. And right at the very end, when I was getting out, it got to a point where I didn't need to stay there anymore. I just had to visit, like, often and get therapy, and I had to be constantly watched by my parents and, like, loved ones. I couldn't really do a lot, and I had court that summer with my ex, and I lost the case, unfortunately.
What was the case for?
For the sexual assault
Okay.
and damage. I don't even really know how I lost, but he had one hell of a lawyer. They had a bunch of money from their business, and I lost pretty much. We both got restraining orders against each other, and they still hold to this day. But I wanted him, my family and I wanted him to do community service or spend time in juvie or something. And he didn't have to do any of that. He walked away essentially free, just with a restraining order against me, and me against him. His lawyer came up to me at the very end, in the parking lot, actually, and he looked at me, which is a girl now with damaged nerves. I can't really feel anything sexually. I am so mentally damaged. And he looked at me, and at this time, there was even a chance that I was possibly infertile. I'm not, but was still unsure at the time. And he looked at me and he said, this is such a hard case because you're both so young, but, you're a young woman, and, I've seen young women, they grow out of it and get stronger, and, he's a young boy, and this could ruin a man's life. And it set a lot of how I go through life, because I had a grown man tell me basically to my face that my life isn't as important as a man's. And so internally, since then, I have done everything in my power to prove that absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
And I walked up to my ex at the end of the case, and I didn't say, I hate you. I didn't hit him. I didn't do anything. I walked up to him, and I grabbed his hand, and I said, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you, and I wish you the best in life.
How old were you at this point?
I just turned 12.
Okay.
And I went home, and I, since then, had been in therapy. I changed school districts. I changed where I lived, and I got my diagnosis for my mental disorders, about 2 years ago now, and those consist of OCD, severe clinical depression, and the brain mapping that I had done was for anxiety because it was so severe. They wanted to map it to see if I was possibly developing a new kind of anxiety that hadn't been discovered yet. And it wasn't that. It just is like, my doctor, the one that diagnosed a lot of me, was the head of the behavioral department. She has a PhD. She's done a lot of studies, and she said that I had one of the most severe forms of anxiety she's ever seen, like, ever. And so I've spent so many years of therapy, and like I said, I'm religious, like, time with, like, God and my friends, and that happened when I was 11 and 12, and I'm 19 now, and I'm, like, the best I've ever been.
I want to backtrack for a second again and ask you about, like, you said, so when you were addicted to all of these substances, when you got clean, like, what was the process for that? And was that difficult? Did you go through, like, withdrawals? Did you have to go to rehab?
The mental facility I was in was essentially that.
Okay.
Because I was a kid. So I was with a lot of kids that were similar like me, in similar situations. And, yeah, I did have withdrawals, and it's so hard to get off of things that you're addicted to. I mean, a lot of people, like, our age know how hard it is to get off of like nicotine.
Yeah.
But like when it's so many other things, like you literally feel like you're dying.
And stronger
Like,
substances too.
yeah, like you feel like you like the withdrawal is literally like you like are dying. Like you feel like you're going to die. Because you think you need these things. And I'm so grateful that I had people that were like so well educated and knew what to do. But I had so many panic attacks in the hospital, and like just a lot of my responses to my anxiety differ. One of the things I do when I have panic attacks is I faint, just blatantly black out. And that was a lot of what happened when I was in the hospital. I would just get so stressed to a point I would literally black out. Like, it was getting off of drugs is so hard, and it was so hard. But I feel like I was very fortunate to have such a good group of people to help me. They knew what to do because they'd seen it before. So that was, I mean, not great, but I'm glad that it happened.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, and around my junior year of high school was when I got over Shane's passing. Not got over it, but I got to a point of where talking about it isn't out of shame. It's celebrating what he had, because I know that's what he would have wanted.
Yeah.
And honestly, every single time I reach an achievement, I spend a day, usually the day of, where I go out and I just sit by myself and I like talk to myself. But it's not talking to myself, I'm talking to him. I did it when I turned 16 and I got my license. I did it when I graduated high school, when I turned 18, like when I got into CU, when I got into my sorority, like all these things, I'm like, look how far I've come, and I know you're helping me get through it. And like, I can feel him, like I can, and I miss him so much. And I get asked all the time, like, the people that know me know everything, and they ask, like, that's so hard, like, if you could go back and, like, change it, what? And I wouldn't change any of it. Like, of course I want my friend here. Of course I wanted a childhood that didn't end at 10. I wanted all of that, but that's just not what was meant for me. And as horrible as it is, like I said, I've helped masses amounts of people. Like, I tell people these things and it opens up their eyes of, you were that bad and you're here now and you're happy with where you are now. How did that happen? How did you, like, I feel like Mother Teresa now. Like, I love helping people. I'm currently doing one of my philanthropies for my sorority, and one of the kids on the team opened up recently about how his friend committed, and I've been like helping him through that, and that's special, and it means something, and it's worth something. And being a voice for so many other people it's a really powerful thing. And there's a huge thing in Christianity, which is my religion, where it's like God gives his hardest battles to his strongest warriors, and I think that was me for sure.
100%.
And I'm so happy with how I used to be with versus how I carry myself now. And I'm forever going to be proud of that. And, you know, they took a lot of things from me. A lot of those people did. And I still have nothing but love in my heart for those people. They were also hurt people and also had stuff going on. And no, that doesn't make it valid, but it makes sense. And I forgive them. And I do genuinely wish all of the people that hurt me the best life ever. And I hope they get that one day, and I hope they find peace in their life without having to hurt another person to feel that way. And I think now just walking through life with nothing but love and hope for so many things is really special. And I will never I'll never change that. Like, I got so much taken from me, but the one thing that people will never, ever take away from me is my heart for other people. I've had the same heart that I've had since I was a kid. I wear it on my sleeve, and it's very proud, and I just want people to feel good. Since I was in the 5th grade, I've given someone a compliment every single day, and I've never failed to miss a day, and that's just me. And I'm happy about that. So, yeah.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Emma.
Of course, yes.
Thank you. That was amazing.